We want to talk about coping with loss. How do you cope with loss? Well, Widow Support TT presents a one-day seminar, Coping with Loss. I have with me this morning Ms. Soraya Nanan, who is an attorney and also the founder of Widow Support TT. Good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Rishi, and good morning to your watching audience.
Before we get into coping with loss, I want to get a little bit of information about Widow Support TT. When was it formed? What is it about?
Well, Widow Support TT was actually first called, well, it was actually named after my husband, Lincoln Nanan Foundation, and then it mushroomed into this group called Widow Support TT, only for the reason that we found that there were a lot of people out there, just like myself, who are widows, who have no one to talk to, has no one to turn to. And I realized from this we needed to form a support group for people like myself. It's not only geared towards widows, it's also geared towards anybody who is going through grief, be it somebody who has lost their parent, somebody who has lost their child, somebody who has lost a friend, a fiancé. It's geared towards people like that. When you are going through grief, I have experiences where you feel all alone and you don't have the tools, you don't know how to cope with grief. When my husband died, I had no book or pamphlets. There was nothing to show me or to guide me, or even someone to talk to tell me, listen, this is how you get through grief. But when you form, I call it a sisterhood. When you form, when you join the support group, you don't stick out like a sore thumb. You're actually around people who understand what you're going through. Some people who actually don't watch you and think you're crazy because, you still feel alone, you still feel lost, you still feel confused. And at the end of the day, by hearing other people's story and even by sharing your stories, you also heal. Our motto is we heal and grieve together. So by grieving together, we actually heal and support each other.
Yeah. And it is important as well for you to have those people around you. I know that many times it is difficult for you to be by yourself, you may want to just be by yourself, but that may also cause some problems. But if you have people who understand you and people who want to work with you, they will be able to help you.
Of course. I mean, I've experienced it where you have friends, family, even people in the church. They want to put a time limit on your grief. But there's no time limit. This grief will last, I say, until you die. What happens with time? People say time heals all wounds. I tell people that's a fallacy. In fact, what time gives you is the skills to cope with the grief. With time, you learn how to deal with this extreme sadness, this extreme loss, this extreme heartbreak. I tell people it's the most life-changing, altering experience you could have ever experienced in your life.
And having that support, having that extra person to talk to sometimes. I mean, there may be times where people may not want to talk to anybody, and it's fine to be by yourself a little bit. But to have somebody, when you may not feel as though you need somebody at times.
Of course. I mean, there are times, the easiest thing for you to tell a widow or anybody going through grief is, how are you? And the easiest answer for me to respond and say is, I'm okay. But really, we're not really okay. I tell people we wear a mask of normalcy. We smile, but people don't know inside how we're feeling. They don't know the depth of despair, of helplessness, of hope, or hopelessness that we feel. And that is why I tell people, sometimes you try to run, sometimes you try to escape, sometimes you try to forget the loss. But it's only when you stop and you actually, what I say is an introspection. You actually stop and you think about what you're going through and you try to do what I call a self-care. Then you are able to really start the process of healing. There are 5 stages of grief. There is denial, there's anger, there's depression, there's bargaining, and there's acceptance. And even though there are these 5 stages, it doesn't happen in this format that I just called out. Sometimes you could go through the stage of acceptance and you still feel depression. But at the end of the day, we all go through these similar experiences. It's similar yet different.
Mm. And you want to be able to help people who have lost someone.
Well, what this event came about, this coping with loss came about, is that people actually have been asking me. I mean, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and going through grief is a very difficult thing, like I told people. And we actually have people who will message us or text us on these social media pages, and they will, just turn to us, because I mean, some people don't know how to cope. So of course we are there to support. I always tell people, I mean, besides us, don't forget there's also, I mean, there's a suicide hotline that you could call 273-TALK. You could text them, message them, and they're available 24 hours. And from this constant, I should say there was a demand from our members as well as people, who have friends and family going through grief. We realized that we needed to have what is called a grief counseling session. And we're having it this Saturday. It's from 9 a.m. And we have 2 speakers. One of them is Miss Ramona Ramkisoon. She is actually a family counselor, and she also has her master's in social work. She's also the NGO of Help and Restoration for Families. We also have a second person who is talking. They are 2 very dynamic speakers. The other one is Mr. Krista Jean Versami, and she is a clinical psychologist. She has a doctorate in clinical psychology. She has done, she has specialized training in grief, loss, and bereavement. She was actually a bereavement counselor in the UK. So we are providing breakfast. We also have these 2 dynamic speakers. The venue that we have chosen is a venue that is available to both people living in North and South. It's actually in Claxton Bay. It's a very safe venue, very private. It's on a hill. It's very surrounded by nature. It's picturesque. I tell people it's a very scenic venue. And we also had, the last time I was on your program, there was this Ojo Spa, the owner of Ojo Spa. She contacted me, and on the day we are also giving out gift vouchers to all those in attendance who it's really like a gift voucher for her spa. And just to tell you all, I mean, people have been asking if they could attend. I tell people this is for anyone going through grief, anybody going through loss. And I want people to understand that loss is not somebody who has experienced a death. There are people, for example, there are fathers who have been prevented from seeing their children by a vicious ex. They would go through some sense of loss and grief. You have mothers whose children have been unfairly taken away from them by the courts. They too go through some sense of loss and grief. So, just think about it. Sometimes you're going through life and you don't know who to turn to and you don't know what to do. This event, I think, is, to me, a very practical event that you could attend. And there will be healing. There will be, there'll be a time during it where we'll have a lot of sharing. There'll be people you could ask questions during that time. And like I tell people, when you share your stories, you can unlock someone's prison. So I'm of course, welcoming anybody who wishes to attend. Please call us at 3091983. The numbers are limited, because we have a good few people who are attending. And please call us, and when you call us, we'll give you the directions, and of course, any information you wish to find out about the event. We're supposed to finish at 12, so it's from 9 to 12. From 9 to 10 is breakfast, and then from 10 to 12 the talks would begin.
And the talks would be, it could also have a one-on-one interaction with people as well. Of course.
I mean, like Ms. Ramkisoon, she indicated to me that after her talk, she will be there, she will be spending the day with us. So anyone who wants to speak to her one-on-one and just, sometime, like I said, it is going to be a small group, and we're going to provide, to me, a safe haven for people to express themselves openly. But besides being there on that day, if you want to speak to any one of the counselors, or privately, they will be available to do that as well.
And you will be able to speak with other people who are going through grief.
Of course.
And sharing your stories might be able to help each other.
Of course.
Cope with it
like
a bit
I
better.
said, sometimes you feel when you're going through grief. I mean, when my husband died, my daughter was a year. I was sole practitioner. I became the sole breadwinner. I became a solo parent. And I felt at that time that I was all alone in this. I felt like there was nobody in the world going through this. And that actually made me feel, like lost. I felt all alone. It's not good when you're going through grief that you feel all alone. But when you have somebody to turn to, I wish I had a group like this that I could turn to, that had this an event like this available, that I could say yes. But I didn't have that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I had to struggle. I had to find my way through the darkness. And eventually, I was able to, and I am still healing, even though I'm able to speak, even though I'm able to come on this program and speak about my experiences. That don't mean that in no way that I have fully recovered. You will never fully recover from your grief. Like I tell people, you will never go back to the time when your loved one was alive. You can never go back to that happy time, but you will eventually find a sense of solace, a sense of peace, where you are able to tell people about your life, and you're able to actually, for me to say to people I'm a widow, that in itself is healing. To even say, listen, you know, my husband died, just to use word like death and widow that is associated with death, that in itself is something difficult to do.
And once again, it's taking place on Saturday, 18th August 2018, 9 a.m. to 12 noon, number 3 to 11 Macaulay Old Road in Claxton Bay. For more information, people can call 309-1983.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan Annan, I would like to thank you very much for coming
Thank
on
you for
and
having
chatting
me.
with us about this initiative. People do need help, and people need
Yes.
help coping with
And
loss.
thank you, Rishi, for having me.
This is Good Morning Trinidad and Tobago. We take a break and come back with more.